All right, welcome to part 3 of this very large double-page spread Halloween scene. This has been stamped out onto a piece of disposable paper placemat paper. All right, and it's literally that. It's just a placemat that you put your food onto and toss it out when you're done. Okay, so we've laid down our composition in part 1, some shading and highlighting, and add the addition of some of the glow-in-the-dark elements in here in part 2 and part 2B. And what's left to do on this one is to go back in and add in some additional highlighting or lighting. And we're going to do it in both sharp and crisp additions. So this is some white pigment ink right here. And I have a 100% cotton ball. And this is going to be the kind of the manner in which I add in some kind of atmospheric fog. It's usually pretty easy to add into a piece when you're starting off, when you would have started off with a white piece of paper, but on something like this that doesn't really have white anywhere in it, we get pretty close to white in the glow-in-the-dark vinyl printable sticker paper, but it's really not white, so kind of getting this to look, I don't know, look somewhat integrated and harmonized with the background or the lighting in here. Sometimes I'm not really quite sure how that's going to go, so I'm going to add very light additions at first. Okay, so the way to do that is to have a really dry application of whatever media you happen to be using, okay? So that goes for anything. If I'm not certain or too sure about how something might appear on a given surface, I apply a very light application of it. Because when you lay it down, you can kind of add a little bit at a time and you can see if you like it or not, okay? Now on something like this, you can, if you add too much, you can kind of blot it off a little bit. But see that, like that right there, that represents some kind of atmospheric mist into the scene. Okay, here's a castle right here, and we have these rocks down below. And what I usually like to do is I usually like to add kind of a low-line mist in my scenario, usually. Okay, so I'm usually apply it from the bottom upwards. Okay, so I apply a little bit more towards the bottom, then as I move up, I'm using a little bit less, okay? And again, I've been tapping that for a while, but there's just a really small application of it. And again, it's because this paper towel is fairly dry, so you don't really come across, you don't really run into any surprises unless you really could try to hurry the process. If you know how something, you want it to look and you want it to be really, really light, then you can apply a lot more faster. But then in this case, for me, working on this type of paper, if I added a lot of this white, it would really stand out against this background, okay? When you have kind of white areas of the paper, from starting off with white cardstock, it integrates a little bit more. But on this one, like I said, the lightest areas of this background paper are kind of this yellowish tone. Okay, so see right down here in the background, I have at the base of these trees and the base of that castle, some of this pigment ink, which represents fog. I don't want it everywhere. I find that it looks kind of better. For me, my taste is when I oscillate the usage of something, be it texture, color, tone, shadows, highlighting, etc. So you can see right here, like this is a good example. I laid down some of this white pigment ink here, and there's none here, and there's some more here and here. So one, none, some, none, some like that. It just gives it a little bit more of a, kind of this oscillating effect in there. The thing that makes it look soft too, by contrast, is to leave some areas untouched. So you have light, darker, light, darker, light, or you can say soft, crisp, soft, because when you lay down this white pigment, it tends to, that fog effect tends to look a little bit like a softer light on your objects like that, okay? Now you don't have to do this everywhere, and it's one of the things that I do is I hold my piece up at arm's distance just to take a look at it and see how things are looking. Because when you start adding something like this, it's easy to kind of focus in on, I don't know, maybe a half square inch or a square inch of your scene, and it's you can lose track of how your small additions of something are affecting the overall. Okay. All right. So see at the base of that tombstone right here. Let's do it right over here too. So these are separate designs, of course, with the this cobbled path road here. And then we have our tombstone over here. But if I put some of this mist going across the tombstone and the cobbled, the brick pathway, you're applying a common texture over, the two different images. So it kind of ties everything together a little bit more. Putting a little bit on this tombstone in the background makes this tombstone, darker one, stand out a little bit more, because you're lightening something up behind it. So yeah, just a little bit more atmosphere like that. Let's get these people right here. We can kind of put them a little bit of mist as well. So now there's just not kind of a one common value starting from top to bottom. It's darker to lighter, or you can say darker, midground, lighter. Right. Now you can just add a little bit, and then if you like it, you can always go back and add more. But what I'll do is I'll kind of do a similar treatment in terms of the amount of application over a lot of things. Then I'll kind of look back at it, and I'll decide if I want to add some more of this effect anywhere. Like, okay, let's make that, looks pretty good. Let's make it a little bit lighter. Okay. See this area back in here too, right around that castle. I think that could stand to use a little bit more. What this represents is the moonlight reflecting off of moisture in the air. Okay, so maybe something close to the moon would be a little bit lighter. I don't know. I mean, it's all kind of relative, but you can kind of emphasize certain things, kind of lighting strength. All right, see that right there a little bit more. When this pigmenting dries, it does dry more see-through than what it looks like from when it's been freshly applied. So keep that in mind. You might think, wait a minute, okay, that looks a little bit darker. Or where did my application of the white go? And it's because it's dried. It doesn't disappear completely, but I would say that, it probably gets, I don't know, 20% darker than what it looks like from when it's been freshly applied. It just depends how much you lay down, though. Also, the type of paper sometimes plays a factor. If you have if you're applying some of this on a piece of matte cardstock or something like that, it might be absorbing into the paper a little bit more. Laying down some around that wolf right there. You can put like that. Maybe that wolf doesn't have some, or you can follow up with the same effect. That. You can see these trees just go straight down into the ground, and I think that looks fine, but yeah, kind of that little extra atmosphere can be fun to add in there. Just like that. It kind of glows a little bit more, huh? We can put some mist coming up from behind that little slope, grassy slope. And this little texture that we're adding into the scene, there's so many different objects in this piece. And they're all related in some way, but they are different images. So when you add in these common touches, texture, lighting, color, etc., you can potentially make these separate stamped objects a little bit more cohesive because they're sharing something in common. And again, it's not just this, it could be color, texture, anything like that. Okay, some of these areas I'm laid down a little bit too much, so I'm removing some. It doesn't dry instantaneous or anything like that, so it gives you plenty of time to manipulate it. Unless you're using something like a stays on white, you know, that's going to dry instant. I don't even know if you can apply a stays on white like this. It's probably, once you ink it up and apply it down, it might be so dry that it doesn't even transfer. So just your standard white pigment inks, your, you know, oil-based ones, or like this one right here, which is a water-based pigment ink. Okay, should we put that Bigfoot back there into the mist a little bit? Let's alter that creature a little bit more. We'll have them kind of walking in the mist in the background like so. All right, so sorry about the glare here. This is what this is looking like here without all that glare. That. Let's add a little bit of this touches down into this water. Okay, you can have the kind of the mist rising off the water's surface. And you'll see what I mean by oscillating it. So I'll put some right here and, you know, maybe right here. As opposed to putting it just everywhere and covering everything up. You want to have that, you want to be able to retain some of that, or establish some of this contrast in here. So remember to hold it up and kind of look from distance and see how what you're doing is affecting the overall piece. Okay. I'm going to ease this transition between this pathway and into this water area. We'll put, I'll mask off some of this rock right here. And then I'll put some of this mist behind the rock. And I'm looking right here. Okay, so there's that tombstone behind this rock. I'm going to create a little bit more separation between the tombstone and the rock just by laying down some of this pigment ink where that tombstone goes into the rock, just so it doesn't look like it's coming like out of the rock right here. Or, you know, it's not a part of the rock. Hello, Star Traveler. I'm glad you like the mist. It's my little kind of secret. It's not a secret because I try to convince a lot of people to do it in all my videos. But it really can bring things together. And it, I don't know, it adds in that little extra touch. People like soft light typically. And this is a way to do it. And there's some hard edges here and there. And this is a way to go in and kind of vary things. So there's a little bit more contrast or something like that. See this little atmosphere in here. When you put it in front of things and behind things, it kind of like makes things a little bit more three-dimensional looking, in my opinion, because you have these trees that are now kind of enveloped in this, you know, what it represents, mist in the scene. So it's a little bit less kind of flat looking. You can do that. You can establish kind of a, you know, more three-dimensional look with shadows and things like that as well. But this is a really easy way to go back in and add in kind of a complementary effect, but with light, you know, light over dark. All right, so pumpkins in the mist. I should do a scene that's just like a big pumpkin patch. Yeah, like a really huge one. See this wolf right here, and there's some pumpkins right behind it, so I'm putting some mist behind the wolf. And it creates a little bit more separation, visual separation between that wolf and that, you know, those pumpkins right there. I got a little bit of pigment on my wolf. I could just wipe it off like that. So you put a little bit of that haze right behind this, and it makes them stand out a little bit more. All right, let's see. We have a lot of this water down here. So these sharp transitions of that rock going into the water, sometimes those are fun to kind of, you know, kind of lighten up a little bit. And again, this pigment ink dries darker. I mean, it'll look more see-through and thus darker because I'm stamping it, I'm applying it over a darker background. So sometimes if you think, oh my gosh, I applied way too much, sometimes you gotta let it dry a little bit. Like I don't see too much around like that wolf, this one's legs very much. I just applied very little of it to begin with, so you can just see how it kind of looks, and then you can develop it further with some additional ink right over the top of it. Now that's like way too much, but let's see, let's dab it off. But again, it's going to dry and darken somewhat. All right, now I'm looking around in here. The thing that I'm trying to figure out is if I've applied kind of like the same amount everywhere, where it's too monotonous. So maybe in this closer area right here, I'll add a little bit more just to, yeah, I guess change the scale of the mist a little bit. Now this is a brilliance pigment ink here too. It's not just straight white, so it has a little bit of a reflective quality to it. It's a little bit more shimmery than just standard white. So it's, in this case, it's kind of bad because I'm getting a lot of glare here off my camera and from the lights. So that's, again, this is what it's kind of looking like right here. A little bit more so than this real glary type of light in there, okay? All right, so, but I think that looks okay. So what I'm gonna do now, that's the soft lighting in this piece. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back in to the scene and add a crisp addition of light in here in the form of highlights. Okay, now using white in here might be a little bit too extreme in some cases. Again, because, and it's more so, it's mostly because I didn't stamp onto a white piece of paper. So sometimes you add these little white details in and it really stands out. So I'm going to go with this more tan colored application. All right, now, so on these tombstones right here, what I do is I reference my light sources, okay? So on the tops of these tombstones, that's really a good opportunity in this section right here of the scene to utilize. Let me see if this is flowing right here. These are extra fine 0.7 millimeter acrylic paint pens. Something like a gel pen would work good too. Gel pens, you know, are a roller ball. Okay, I need to get this one flowing again. I think I have some dried paint up there. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, so tombstone lighting. Okay, so the tombstones to the right of my moon, they'll have some right side illumination underneath, top side, and the tombstones over to the left of the moon will have right side illumination. So left side illumination over here, right side illumination over here. So I just put a little bit of a line. I'll just go with the vertical lines for right now. And there's lighting on the tombstones. The designs themselves, I put some little bit of lighting in there, but since we're stamping it over the top of this dark paper, you know, it's not as readily apparent here. So in a way, I'm just kind of reiterating what's already established in the tombstone itself, the design. Okay, so you see that lighting on here. You can see the difference between these ones right here without this and with. And it just has that little bit of extra lighting. So it's really fun to add this in here. So now let's do these tombstones, but we'll do it on the inside inside sides of the stone, like this. And then we'll go on the top. So I kind of do things together, so I keep my, I don't know, whatever muscle memory going here. So I'm doing these little arcs like this. And now you have, you know, maybe some slightly more, oh, I don't know, kind of integrated tombstones because they are reflecting the lighting coming from that area of the scene. So you can do that, you know, as much as you want or as little as you want or none. The more you lay down there, the more highlights that you lay down, what you're saying in a sense is, you know, it's a depiction of the brightness of the light source. Okay, so here's some smaller, more distant stones. Like that. And you can even do it. Okay, now here's some really distant ones right in here. but I might just put, you know, a few of these little highlights on some of the closer ones, like that. So it just kind of makes them stand out a little bit more. And again, it kind of integrates them with it's whatever lighting integration you might call it. Okay, I don't know. Should I put some on those like really distant ones, or is that too much? You can put sometimes you can just put like a little tiny dot on top of them. I don't think I want to put a little highlight on the those people though. Let's keep them in silhouette. Okay, now you can do all kinds of similar things if you want to. Like here's this tree right here. I can put a few little highlights maybe on the side of the tree facing my light, so it's on the inside section of that tree. And the tree over to the left side, you can do, you know, kind of the opposite side of the tree. I don't want to put like a whole line up it, so I might put a little bit of line, then kind of break it up with a little bit of tone. If it's a paint pen like this, and you think, oh my god, I added like way too much on there, just, you know, take a paper towel or cotton ball and just kind of wipe it off right after you lay it down. Don't wait too long because it'll start setting up, but you'll have some time to manipulate it. All right, here's some frogs down here. Let's give them a little bit of a highlight on the tops of their, whatever, head, eyeballs. Some of these rocks in here can be reflecting some of that light. Now, again, this kind of stands out a little bit, so a lot of times if I'm working on a white piece of paper, I'll add in more touches. Okay, so usually water. This is supposed to be a little pond. Has these little, what they call specular light. It's when there's a reflection of light on objects. So that's what this can do. So it gives the scene a little bit more kind of shimmer and sparkle, or the water has a little bit more shimmer and sparkle in here. All right, so these are different zones in here. So we have this scene right here. I guess this could be a whole scene like this, but they're being influenced more by the moon in that half or quadrant. Over here, what we'll do is we'll go this light source right here, this moon will be the influencing light source for this area. So again, I lay down some dots in here, or some line work, or both. Some highlighting on some of the statuary, I guess, this little figure. Let's not put some highlights on that Sasquatch, because it's like a mythological type of figure. So we'll just have him in the mist. We won't have him kind of influenced too much by light. Forest floor, a little bit of sparkly forest floor lighting. Yeah, Star Traveler. So you know, if you don't have like a physical object that you're referencing the lighting, but you just want to add in some lighting, you can always just kind of designate. Let's say we're working on a quarter-page card, but we don't have a sun or moon or something like that, like a physical, whatever, light source. You just designate somewhere on the card, and just, it could, the light source could be coming from outside of the page, if you want to do that, and just keep your lighting and your reflected light And shadow work just consistent with that source. So let's say this moon was outside of my scene right here. Let's say I wanted it over here. In theory, then I'd have like all these shadows going this way. And then just on all the trees, the light highlights would be all on, let's say, the left side of all of these trees. So you just keep it consistent like that. All right, let's see here. Yeah. Okay, so these pumpkins I colored with a little bit of a orange colored pencil here. So maybe instead of using, this kind of more tan one, we can go into a little bit more of a orange highlight. It just depends if the orange right here is darker than the orange pen, then this might look like the highlighting. So instead of it being a tan highlight, you can make it an orange highlight. I say maybe because I haven't even used this pen before. It's a brand new pen. I guess I don't use orange highlights too often. Hello, Leslie. How are you? We got a big scene here. And putting on the probably the finishing touches here, which are often my favorite. It's like my favorite time of a card. Because sometimes it can be little additions, but sometimes it kind of brings objects to life, especially, or areas to life. Sometimes little things like this, you put a little, like an object is in a darker kind of area, and you put a few little highlights on it, and those objects just, like I said, it kind of brings them to life a little bit more. So like these little pumpkins, like right in here. See that little highlights on the top of them like that? But otherwise they were looking kind of dark, so it just kind of brings in that little extra, kind of touch, visual interest, an area gets too obscured, like, in here, but so you can put some mist in there like that. And I don't know, just like that little mist in the background. So lighting, I guess I should say. So it's soft light, and then this is the crisp light. Okay, so see like something like this right in here. This scene is so big, I'm looking all over the place. Usually I'm doing a quarter-page card, standard card size pieces. So I'm, my focus of attention is like one thing. But on this one, it's like everywhere. So like, see these bat eyes right in here? Sorry, I can't zoom in too close. My camera goes out of focus and it stays out of focus. But see, these bat eyes would usually stand out a little bit more, but we stamped them over a darker piece of paper than white. So I can go in and bring out those eyes again with white, and then it stands out even more like that. These little, little things like that are really fun to do. And that's what I did up here in this castle. The windows were the color of the background because I stamped them on that background textured paper like that. But then you add these little, white windows like that, and it really kind of stands out a little bit more. So let's do this. We've added some little highlights down in this water. Oh, by the way, these pens dry a little bit darker looking, the paint does, than what it looks like when it's been freshly applied, just like the pigment. So I might go in here with some white. I'll use a little bit less white in here, or shimmery sparkles down here. So see that right in there? It kind of, it's a little bit more alive with these little touches like this. You look over any body of water, you can have a glass of water, and you'll see, these little shimmers in there where it's reflecting that lighting in there. Hello? To Star Traveler. Are those bats fun? Sometimes I forget I have them. And then I'll see someone use them. It's like, I gotta use those bats. All right, let's add a few little more highlights. Around that moon light. Sometimes I add a little bit more closer to my light source than distant. All right, so let's do this. I wasn't sure if I'm going to do this or not, but I think it'll work because I didn't know how much the pens would stand out on here, and or how well they'd integrate. I don't want these dots to really stand out like a huge amount. I'd rather have them kind of, you know, a little bit more subtle like that. But so we have these areas like right in here, these large kind of darker areas, okay? And it's relatively speaking, but, or like right in here, it's all a real similar texture. Okay, so we're adding lighting in here. So one of the things that's really fun to do is you can go back in and you can add in. So if it's a big sky scene, I like to add little white pigmenting stars, okay? Or if there's a waterfall flowing down, I like at the base of the waterfall, you like these little splashy, little sparkly lights. But in something like this, it's doing the exact same thing, but maybe these types of little lights, or dots in this case, would represent little fireflies. So I'm adding some of these down. I'm having a hard time adding this over this. It's because I've added so much colored pencil in here. I'm trying to put this dot of paint over, you know, a thick application of wax here. So here we go. Okay, so I'll put that, I don't know, maybe that's going a little bit too much, but see this right in here? I'll add these little things. I'll try to vary it too. Whenever we're adding little dots like this, I think it's in us all because I've seen other people do it too through, you know, whatever years of teaching in-person workshops that I used to do. But it's like everyone kind of, we all space these little dots out completely uniform. It's usually like a little under 1/4 of an inch or something like that, and they're all evenly spread. So I have to work against, I don't know, whatever habit, or not habit, but like nature. So see like this, I'll try to go like that. I'll cluster, you know, a couple of them together, have them a little bit closer. So see, this is a way to go back in and add or introduce light into dark. It's texture, it's adding another layer of something in front of your objects too. So this was like, you know, in this little area right here of the trunk, you know, that's the thing that's laid there, okay? So in some of these cases, we've laid down some white pigment ink in front of the tree trunks, okay? So we're adding a soft light in front of it. This is like a way to add in like a crisp light. I'm not done with these either. I'll add in like little, like a green glowing, you know, kind of light that might be indicative of a, you know, firefly or some type of thing. Like that, and this area right here kind of, oh, I know. This area in here, because this is supposed to be like a cave, of course, but I'm going to do this thing that I saw. I haven't done it. Years ago, I did this one cave that had these glowworms in there. It should really be in green, but if I don't add in some white, I found that it's kind of a little anemic looking. So I'll add in a little bit more of the white, and then we'll put in some of that greenish glow right in here. So you see, it kind of like, it brings the surface of that, you know, the cave walls to life a little bit. You know, like Christmas lights. except it's glowworms. Hello, Deborah. How are you? Linda. Linda, are you still out camping? Rescuing hubby from lake. Oh, kayak tipped. Oh, come on now. What the heck? He can't swim. It is time, Mr. Bystrom, to learn to swim. Well, life jackets for sure. Okay, let's go in with the kind of a greenish tinged ink. Is this flowing here or not? Weather's been really hot. I usually don't have any kind of issues with these pens, like, at all. I'll get it going here. That's why I have 2 sets of these here. Ooh, this one's like really kind of fluorescent. Okay, let me try these 2 right here. There's one of those Amazon Prime days. Not the last one, but the one before that. And I paid $40 for one of these 40 color sets, 42 color sets. Maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. And I've been using them since. But someone asked me about it, so I happened to look it up. And I think the price went down like by half. It was like 20 something maybe. And then there was like Amazon Prime days. A couple Prime days ago, and I think the set was something like, it was like $13. Oh my God, But the colors that I was kind of running out, using up the fastest was white. But I thought, my other colors, I don't do a lot of coloring. It's usually like little highlights, like with something like this. So even if you lay down 50 dots of green once in a while, that pen's like really going to last like for a really long time. But I thought, $13, which included shipping. I had to get another set, and I'm glad I did though too. Okay, so there's some of that green kind of integrated in there like that. Sorry about the glare again. But let's go in and get some glowing effects to these bugs here. And I think that'll do it. I added in this hanging spider here. If anyone had watched a couple of the previous steps of this scene. Okay, pigment here. White pigment ink, Q-tip, 100% cotton Q-tip, okay? The acrylic ones are really soft, but I find that they wick moisture, which, synthetics do, where cotton absorbs it more, so you have more to transfer. Now, you don't want to have a big glob, though, but you want to have it where it's, fairly dense on here, but kind of dry, okay? So you want a drier type of application of this, because I don't want a big blob of paint. I want it to be like a little glowing little effect. Sometimes I take off too much of this, but that's better than a big blob. If you do a big blob, you just wipe it off and start out, but I'd rather not. If I don't have to remove blobs constantly. So kind of do it get it to where the consistency is where like 10 taps or something like that kind of gets you the glow that you're, whatever, going after, trying to achieve. You don't want to, some people get impatient. It's like 1, 2, and I can't see anything. So they go blob, if it's like the back of the their applicator is really filled up with ink. All right, so see these right here. And this is what you do for like stars too. You know, you lay down some of that white pigment ink in the sky, but then on a few of those, you kind of make it glow. And it creates a little bit of textural contrast because some of these dots are crisp and, you know, some of them are kind of soft. So you have soft and crisp lights within that same texture. So see this right in here? I mean, this looks kind of weird right here. Just like that. People are going to be wondering, what the heck is that? But if you put a little bit of a glow to them, it kind of makes a little bit more sense that it's like a firefly. Now these ones, it would be a green glow, but I find that if I lay down like a green dot and put the white over it, I found that I can't see the green anymore, okay? Even though this is kind of a translucent light application. So what I'll do is I'll go back in and I'll add a little bit of green right over the top of that glowing little bug. Okay, so these back in the trees right here. So I'll show you the difference between what they look like. See, there's some over there too, but... And I found that in the past that if I put it on all of these, it doesn't look as good. So here's like 3 of them kind of glowing right in there. There's, I don't know, like 4 dots right there. I can, maybe on a couple of those larger dots, I'll put that little glowing light. And here's this area right here. And you go like this, and this, and remember, if you add too much, you just kind of dab it off and it'll come right off. You know, don't wait 5 hours to remove it, but all right, so see these little areas like right in here, it brings that little visual interest into these otherwise, you know, kind of a little bit more less varied, I guess, areas. I need a couple right here too. Okay, here, let me add it. I don't want to go overboard because I don't want to just have this whole thing covered in dots or something like that. But okay, let me wait for that to here. Let me put a couple more down here. Okay, okay, I forgot about this area right here. This is like too big for me. I can't remember where I've my focus is like all over the place here. Okay, let me add some of that down over there, but let's add some of the glowing little features right in here, and maybe when I'm done right here, that those little dots over there will be dry. If you just lay them down like that, that little acrylic paint is still wet, and if you go into it, you're just going to almost like be removing that dot as opposed to applying this over the top of it. Okay, so now if I had some, I was going to say, I think I was going to say, if I had some light green, that might be kind of cool. Maybe I'll try that in here. Let me try this. I don't remember if I've tried green pigment ink in here before. Let's give it a try. Yeah, I love fireflies too. I've never seen them up personal, but I've watched a lot of videos of them. Someone looked it up while we were in a live stream once. They said they have fireflies in California, apparently. I'm thinking, what? And I looked it up after the live stream, and sure enough, in this one area of California, I guess they have them. Okay, so let's see here. I don't know if this is gonna really show up here. Let me try it. I think my technique of the see this green, I can lay it down pretty thick right there. Yeah, I mean that does show up there, but I think the point, it's just too subtle. I need something with a little bit more contrast. And I'll try to work on it, because if I have like some green glow, maybe I have to lay down some white and then lay this down over the top of it or something like that. That might be kind of, you know, interesting, but we'll see. So let's make some of this glow. This one looks more like fireflies in a cave, but we'll say they're glowworms. I have a customer that used to, their family, I guess, has done caving before. I think it's just kind of the area that they're in. I think there's a lot of these caves in Tennessee or something. All right. So there we have those right in there. Again, real glary like that. Okay. But let's go back into these areas right in here. That should be long enough for it to dry. Long enough. Yeah, it's pretty dry. Let me try to do this too. I'm kind of doing the same little glowing area, the same everywhere. Since this is like represents something closer to us, I'll make this glow a little bit bigger. It's not a 1/4 inch, but I don't know, maybe it's a 1/4 inch. I'll do a couple like a 1/4 inch glow. So you just kind of dab it like this, and then you just kind of work it out a little bit more. So maybe you start in the middle, and then after you dab it down, it's getting a little bit drier on here because you've been applying it, so use the drier version of it as you transition out. Okay, again, so it's not just like this uniform like blob. You know, you want it a little bit lighter in here and then drier out here, okay? And the trick, again, is just not having so much ink on your Q-tip. You only saw a few of them this past summer. Oh, huh. It varies from, does it vary from year to year typically? The amount you get? I guess that's the same thing, you know, around here, like with certain types of seasonal insects. Sometimes it seems like there's a gazillion crickets or something like that, or and then other years hardly any. All right, so here we go like that. Yeah, see this little area? It looks like it's a little bit more whimsical. Now, I don't like that in the cave so much, so what we're going to do is, this kind of looks weird right here. So what I'll do is I'm going to come back in to those areas and I'll give it a little bit more of a greenish treatment. Oh, that's a brand new one. Let's see. Where's the one that I was using here? Here we go. If anyone's interested or inclined, check out, look up, do a search on like cave glowworms, and these worms have that that bioluminescence, and it's really interesting looking. Okay. What I meant in here in this cave section that I didn't like too much is that I don't know, it didn't seem to match. So I'm going to put like this little green dot, which I'm going to do in these other areas too, but I'm filling in that little white center with a green dot instead in this area down here. Okay, so like in these areas right here, if we just want to give a little bit of a green tinge to them. See, there's this, and again, sorry, I can't zoom in closer, but right in the center there, I'll add this little green little dot. Sometimes it's hard to do that because you get your pens going really flowing well. And you add that little green dot right in the middle. So what I mean by that, sometimes it's kind of hard to add it in there. It's because you're adding it over the top of some pigmenting. So sometimes that pigmenting goes up into that tip, that nib right there, and that could dry in there. So you just kind of have to kind of get it flowing and get that little bit of pigmenting out of your tip right there, because it, you know, it can clog it as you do this. So typically, I mean, that happens to me a lot, so I just kind of constantly have to keep it flowing. So on these ones that have these larger glowing whatever perimeters to them, I'll put like a little dot in the middle of them. I don't think you'll be able to see it on screen there, but it just kind of decreases the contrast slightly. Let me see. Let's. I'll put a couple little green just dots in here too. That looks pretty good. I don't know if you can tell, but see right in here. See, this is the color of this paper right here, but there's this slight greenish tinge in here, and that was done with a colored pencil. Okay, so I'm making up for Star Travelers. Slightly, you know, absence of their firefly season with more fireflies here. Okay, that's about it. I don't know if you can see it in here. I'll make a couple larger ones so you can kind of, maybe you can see that a little bit more. But I think that should do it there. Let's get that glare out of there a little bit more. My studio lights are putting a really strong glare onto this semi-gloss card paper. But anyway, so you see little things like this that are going on. I really like doing that type of thing. Now this big sheet of paper, it's a little bit bigger than 11 by 17. I would cut it down to 11 by 17 and just get a little cheap frame if I was going to display it. And I would just slap it in that frame. It's pretty fun, you know, it doesn't have to be like in the frame permanently. You can come up with a different kind of, you know, like seasonal layout, you know, every year and just switch it out. Okay, but what I'm getting at is if I was going to frame this in there, I wouldn't do this, but like in this little area in here, I have these like little crystals like this. Well, not that, these ones aren't crystal, but the tumbled glass, okay? But you can put like little things like this glued onto like cave rocks or something like that. Sometimes you can't even see it, but then you hold it at a certain angle, especially if it was like a regular sized card that you were giving to someone. But I really like this this tumbled glass little pieces, and you just put a little dot of glue down there and take like a, you know, you can take a tweezer, you know, or something like that and lay down. I usually just grab it or something. I just poke it in my finger like that, and I have a piece on my finger, and I just kind of lay it down on that little dot of glue. But you can give a little bit more texturing in here where it's actually like raised and light reflective in there, and that's really fun. Oh, okay, so here, I didn't show you this either, so these are all glow-in-the-dark pieces. I haven't even taken a look at this in the dark myself yet, but let's take a look here. Let me charge this up with a little bit of light, and I'll see if I can get this room dark enough. It's still, what time is it? 5:43 Pacific Standard Time. Let me see if I can charge this up with some light. I'm holding it up to my light source. You're probably wondering what this is. This is the trimming guide for my cling foam sets that I have to show my rubber guy where to trim the stamps for the pre-trimmed cling foam versions of the stamp sets. Okay, that's charge it up with a little bit of light. There's our fun little glowing. Okay, I have some lighting coming in from behind me. That's what's doing that. But there's your little vignettes like that. So here's the cave area. I don't know, whatever, the spooky forest, the cave, and our little water section right here. I didn't do my Creature of the Black Lagoon in the glow-in-the-dark sticker paper this time. Let me open up one of my blinds a little. Anyway, you can see a little bit of the glow effects right there still. Yeah, let me close that a little bit more. Anyways, pretty fun with the vinyl paper there, but a really big scene. All right, let me flip some of these lights back on. Get that glare out of there. All right. Fun with scale for sure. I haven't done one of these in a while, but it's not too hard to do. You know, you kind of just what I did was I stamped out my main objects. So in this one, it's the trees right here, and this one, that's the path, and then the castle. This one's just a bunch of the same rock, and then this one right here, it was the same rock over here, just stamped out here, 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 and here. I just used kind of like a smaller portion of this rock right here. But then you just kind of start combining everything. And you're thinking, well, how do you combine everything? Well, it's a lot of this little texture right here that did it. So you see these textures at the bottom of the trees and here, at the bottom of these rocks in the distance, around the tombstones, around the water area. So, but it certainly gives you a lot of space to add in your figures should you want to do something like that. Yeah, that suede paper is pretty fun, Linda. So Linda, so we started off with this suede paper right here. And if you just joined in, if you haven't seen this before, there's just some placemat, disposable printed rectangular paper placemats. 50 of them, very inexpensive because it's disposable paper, placemats. It's not going to be like the same price as like a beautiful, thick, coverweight cardstock or something like that, that's supposed to be printed on and used for book covers and all that type of thing. So sometimes there's some interesting placemat paper designs, okay? When I look for something like this, if I'm going to be stamping on it, like scenes, I try to go for something that doesn't have too much contrast in it. Like there's some really beautiful ones that are like wood grained or something like that. I like this wood grain because there wasn't very much contrast in it, but This one right here just goes from the lightest area to the darkest area like that. So you can stamp pretty much anything over the top of it, and it'll read. But with some types of placemats, there's a lot of like a heavy printed pattern on there with a lot of contrast. So, if it was like, some sort of like a marble, there was a really cool marble one too I was thinking about getting. But if it's like other types of wood where there's like heavy wood grains in it, and if you stamp this rock over it, you'll be able to see that whole wood grain running straight through that, which might be a little bit harder to utilize. You can use it for other things like matting something, but if you're going to be stamping on it, especially like word stamps, you want to go for something kind of with low contrast. But I find that these papers are pretty easy to stamp on, with just about any type of ink. This one right here is a little bit more like a satin finish to it. This one right here is much more matte, okay? But just about any inks work on it. And you can start off with a really rich looking, type of surface, as a change from just working on, like white cardstock, which is going to give us the most amount of whatever variation that you can add to it because it doesn't establish. But if we want to just do something really quick that already has kind of an interesting texture to it, it's a pretty good way to go. You've been noticing other kinds of bugs, huh? Well, I hope those lightning bugs, fireflies aren't disappearing. I hope it's just this one year. Yeah, the glow in the dark. Yeah. Oh, so other things. If you have other types of glow in the dark things, if you have glow in the dark pens. Okay, so I haven't bought one of those things yet, but I think Linda Bystrom here, I think you have that. Sorry if I keep saying this like every time this comes up, Linda, but you have that glow in the dark paint pen, right? Or someone did. But you might be able to add in things like that. So instead of like a paint pen like that, you can actually add in maybe some glowing paint, acrylic paint or something like that. That might work in there. So these are little fun things you can add in there. If you want to add a little bit of glow in the dark shimmer in here, I think there's some people have like a glow in the dark, like embossing powders too. You would have to tell me how to use something like that. But maybe those like embossing pens, you can add in a few little dots here or there, and then put the glow in the dark embossing powder in there, and have like glowing, actual glowing fireflies, which would be really cool. But anyway, part 3 and final additions to this piece right in here. We've added in like those little highlights on these tombstones, so they're a little bit more, whatever, three-dimensional. We've added dimension into these, otherwise kind of nothing areas. So you've added in these lights into kind of darker spaces, and you've given them a little bit of texture. So it's really fun with, white pigment ink and lighter colors of either paint or gel pens, something like that. And, like these little things like this, these little lights like that. I mean, that's a really fun little detail that isn't needed, but can add in that little extra kind of like sparkly touch into your pieces. And you don't have to have an excuse for it, like you can add it in like a winter scene, where it's, it's not probably not going to represent a firefly like in the snow, but just, it's like a little glowing orb, and that's what something like a animated Disney movie might have, it's just kind of a magical little entity within that given space. It adds a little bit of movement too, like that, I guess. It's like these hovering little things like that. So, yeah. All kinds of little fun little touches like that you can do. So I'm always looking for excuses of little detailed elements like that, especially if it's like a light in there. I should give that little spider a couple little beady eyes in there too, just like these bats right there. Anyway, pen paint adjust recently glow in the dark. Oh yeah. I have the glow in the dark pen, GID. Paint just recently. We want to see that. We want to see that. You probably already added it on the Facebook group, but yeah, maybe if you add that more of that paint glow in the dark paint pen pieces to the Facebook group. If anyone hasn't checked out the Stampscapes Facebook group, you can see all kinds of fun compositions done by the members of the group. Check that out if you're on Facebook. I will try to add like this type of thing to the Facebook and also my Flickr gallery too. So if you don't want to log into something like a Facebook enclosed, entity, anyone can see the Flickr gallery of mine. Linda has one too. I don't know if you've been adding anything to that Flickr page too. Starts to be a little bit much, when you start doing these things. If it doesn't automatically upload, like I upload to Instagram too, and it automatically have it linked up with my Facebook page. But all these types of things, and a gazillion more, and all kinds of different techniques are on the Facebook group because everyone has a little bit of a different kind of methodology and media that they like to use. So all kinds of different variations. Yeah, Star Traveler. Yeah, check it out. Do some pricing around. Most paint pens I find are pretty good. I've only found one that wasn't quite so good in terms of clogging. Okay, but most of them I find these are Artistros. They're pretty good. I wish sometimes they were a little bit more opaque, but on the other side of it, the ones that are a little bit more opaque, or a lot more opaque, there's less water in them, okay? The binder for acrylic. So what those one set of mine did was, after I used the pen, if I didn't use it for like a couple months or something like that, it dried up, where these ones are a lot more watery. So, and they're reasonably opaque. I mean, I can see all these little dots on here, but I don't find they clog. Now, a couple of these, I don't know, weren't flowing, but usually if I kind of shake it, unless they were out of ink, a couple of these might have been. They usually flow pretty good, and for several years I haven't had any problems. Drop me a note if you ever have any questions too. Part 3 of this large scene. Large spooky scene. All right, folks. Hope you like the card scene. Very large scene. So again, it's just stamped on a placemat, disposable paper placemat. So I'll probably just use this like maybe tonight to eat off of and dispose of it. So keep it within the true spirit of its intended purpose. All right, have a great rest of evening. Hope to see you on the next live stream.